Hi, welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophie, your pilot into the universe of Chinese. We're going to continue our flight into the deep of this amazing language. It's an exploration tour, as much for you as for me. Well, I think I got it wrong. Okay, so a few days ago, we learned 振臂一挥. It talks about you wave your arm with one swing. And then the day before, we talked about 大笔一挥 with one stroke and somebody who is in authority to sign off some contract or some commitment, some funding. So that's the 笔. You can also with this 挥. And today we're going to go with pretty more complicated hui sentence. It's from a stanza of a poem, probably one of the best known Chinese contemporary poem written about 100 years ago. Okay, so this time it's not waving your arm this time, or your brush pen. This time is your sleeve. So 我挥一挥衣袖，不带走一片云彩. Wow, I said 菜, it should be 菜. Okay. So this pretty long. I only highlight 4 characters from the sentence. So same 挥, but this time is a shaking the 衣袖. It's the sleeve. Sometimes the Chinese make 2 characters combined with one phrase. That actually just means this. So 衣 and 袖. 衣 is anything that's clothing related, apparel. And 袖 is a particular portion of that clothing. So that's one way of formation. We use a general term of the bigger categories of the thing, which is clothing. And then we give a specific location of that clothing, which is sleeve. And this is the 袖. Actually wrapped within the 衣. You can see the top portion. It's kind of a hat with like a cone-shaped hat with a tip on the top. And then this is like a wrap-around dress collar, this wrap-around shape of clothing. This is ancient way of clothing. So between the hat and the collar, that symbolizes the majority, the main component of 衣. So I guess in this sense, it includes both the apparel and the accessory, right? The hat. And in between, there's something else. This is the ancient expression that got this 3-finger upside down. Well, I guess looking like this, upside down hand symbol. And then the right side is some plant. So we know for farming purpose, mostly back in the days, sleeve is the end of your clothing where you can reach out your hand and reach out to the plant. So this symbolizes, oh, this is the otherwise it's included within you, like you're wrapped, you don't expose any of your body. But here you have to show your hand because you need to do the planting or farming thing. So here symbolize that portion of the clothing that's at the end. There's a hand to reach out. So where is that? So it's almost like a visual puzzle. And then eventually people, I guess, it get popular enough that this is finalized as the sleeve expression. And in contemporary Chinese simplified version, we just, instead of doing this sandwich of the hat, between the hat and the collar, we stuff something in the middle. We simply abstract the clothing sign. You can see this and this, how similar they are. This is a simplified abstraction of this. And this is the top, the hat and the collar together, further abstraction, right? So this becomes, put it on the side. That's easier to write, right? And then we plug in a sound maker, which has nothing to do with the original, the hand of the plant, which is probably too complicated to capture in a word. But that's the origin of our sleeve. So this guy, this person, I, Well, by the way, this is a contemporary concept of I instead of like wu. There's a whole bunch of Chinese characters, ancient ways to self-address, self-referral, like 自, 己, right? And this time is 我. 我 is the contemporary one. If you're learning Chinese ABC or at a starting point, 我 is the one that's going to represent I concept. You're not going to learn all different variations of the ancient ways of expressing I. And so I'm not going into detail of that formation, but 我挥一挥, so wave my sleeve, and it's simply sleeve, but Chinese like to throw in the general term exactly what, probably because Chinese sometimes use the sleeve or some specific terms paired with another general character to form something else as kind of sleeve, right? That's just give it a freedom. 不带走一片云彩, 不 negation, right? Not take 走, walking away. So 带 here actually came with the ancient personal adornment decoration as well. Over here is the, well, actually this shape is the waist, tiny waist, right? And then this is the belt, actually the belt, and the end of the belt was also tied up. So this originally simply means the ancient way of wrap something around person's waist, most likely a guy's waist. I mean, a man, Asian way, don't say guy. And then, form a knot at each end. And at the bottom here is kind of a drapey thing. Well, this is related to ancient people's way of dressing. At the time, there's no pants, right? Pants is a Western apparel. So you don't really have, two tubes wrapped around your legs. And actually, probably they do, but that's for lower class people that have to work in a farm, have to spread, like have their individual legs individually wrapped. But in ancient time, people who don't need to work, the so-called the ruling class, right? They can wear in gowns or dresses all day long, including men. So this is part of that look. I guess this was trendy back then, that formed a kind of a cascading effect of fabrics. And the extra fabrics, which forms no function, right? Doesn't help you to do anything because they actually don't need to do anything, just shows like a volume, the extra fabric that, yes, I can buy it, I can afford to. So that becomes kind of symbol of social status, right? So that probably becomes why, my guessing, why people go for that look, because it's a status symbol. They want a certain, layering of fabric. And on the top of that, the waist is going to be banded, wrapped, and knotted at the end, excuse me. Okay, so then 带走一片云彩, and okay, 云彩, so are these two. Okay, 云彩 is a Chinese way to beautifully, like poetically express this concept of cloud. So instead of cloud, which is 云, you see here is a visual capturing of 云, the way, the air, the formation of the cloud sometimes in the sky, with a little bit irregular shape, right? It's not straight, it's not artificial, it's not like a man-made item that can be shaped in a certain way, but it's like you cannot really shape it, conceptualize, and fix the shape because it's not regular. So I guess these are showing, so there are layers of it, and sometimes some random shapes. So this captures the visual concept of what is a cloud, and the Chinese pair it with 彩, which means color. And often the cloud is not just gray, white, colorless existence. Chinese like to pair it with this color concept to show the diverse, like a visual effect. Not just shape is undefined, but colors could be a variation of color. And this 彩, we talked a few episodes before, that comes with this pattern sign, if you see 3 strokes in the same direction, slanted diagonal, that means a pattern. So this pattern is related to decoration. And the left side simply, well, 3-finger hand again, so showing this time horizontally, just like this. But now standing down, this is horizontally hand, and the bottom is a plant. So using a hand to gather, to do something, take something from the plant. So this is herbal based. And my interpretation is, okay, you use the gathered herbal element and probably crush it, and then that's the how formation of ancient pigment, the color, tiniest color unit, and then you form a pattern. So anyway, I want to show you this Chinese formation of verb plus the one horizontal line, which is our one, and plus the same verb again. So we have this pattern of actually repeating the same verb, but connected by number 1. That just means make them once, take one stroke. Or so in the first sentence, we have 挥挥, so just wave your hand once, or wave your something once. And then 笑一笑 is you smile once. Lightly, like it just gave a small indication of that you smile, but not smile for sustained time. And 看一看, you just take a look, exactly like English translate as take a look, 看一看. So not like a close-up examination, but just take a look, that shallow kind of 看. And 想一想 is probably a little bit deeper because you think it twice. So something, if you think it twice, is you're taking it like think it over. So would translate as think it over. So even if it's the same pattern, there are tonal differences depending on the verb. So if a simple action like 挥, like shake it or wave it or swing it once, so that's once. And smile, like smile once, like how to define the beginning and the ending of the smile, that's a little bit more difficult, right? So it's a little bit different than 挥, how it works, right? And 看 too, like how to count your look at something, right? You take something in. So this simply means you examine something just but lightly. And then 想一想 is also lightly thinking, but because you 想一想, okay, you just think and think again. So have a different connotation. So the whole thing is from this poem called The Farewell to Cambridge Again by Xu Zhimo, almost 100 years ago. And this is a farewell poem when he departed from the Cambridge campus for the second time. And he put in very contemporary Chinese expressions, kind of a new language formation, because, okay, 1911, so just 17 years ago, it was still ruled by the Qing dynasty. So it was a total different system. And people back then, like men back then, wear those long braided strand of hair as a symbol of not exactly slavery, but I guess submission or obeying the authority. Like you're required to wear this hairdo to show you're loyal to my ruling. So man, I'm sure his father generation would wear that. And then it was overthrown, 1911, and then people start to change how they look. You see different haircut, more contemporary, wearing glasses, very Western, and suited up, suit and shirt and tie. The whole thing is a Western look. So this is probably one of the first generation young men from China that traveled overseas, absorbed the Western thinking and way of living. And so he kind of write in this new language as well, new language expression. So ancient Chinese express ways, in a certain way. So most of what I showed you in this channel are time-honored ancient way of expression that we still use today, but use 4 characters to have very concise expressions of some concepts that condensed into 4 characters. That are the ancient ways. And then ancient ways, the connection between all these expressions are having their own pattern. So it's just like in English, you have contemporary English use, and then you have ancient English, not ancient, you call it Old English. So Old English has its own ways of expression, right? Similar sense. So this is the first generation of Chinese who can wrote kind of in contemporary Chinese way. That's why the character like 我, right? And 不带走一片云彩, this is a very contemporary, but the combination of images and the way to say it is poetic. So that's why it's one of the first, most influential and the best known contemporary poems by Chinese. And I simply translate it as a wave goodbye, not exactly wave sleeves. And he didn't take any cloud with, so that's an expression. All right, I will dive deeper into this poem in tomorrow's episode and look forward to that. Catching the currency of thinking by one word a day. See you another day.